Welcome to the Business Shop Podcast, where our guests speak on meeting the challenges of entrepreneurship, as well as offer tips and advice on business, marketing, technology, and more. Whether you are a newbie or a seasoned professional, this episode is for you. I am your host, Audrey Wiggins. Let's chop it up. What's up, Chop Squad? My guest this episode is Sean Tyler Foley. He's an accomplished film and stage performer who has been acting in film and television since he was 6 years old. He has appeared in productions including Freddy Vs Jason. I'm glad you're on. This is virtual, okay? I don't want to be scared today. Door to Door, Carrie, and he's from Canada, so we were talking about what was going on up there, a lot of fires and stuff. So Carrie, she was the fire starter, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, and the musical Ragtime. He is a veteran podcast guest with over 300 appearances on episodes with topics ranging from leadership to safety to overcoming adversity. He is currently the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked, and is the managing director of Total Buy-In, where he works with executives and CEOs, helping them to show up powerfully behind the mic to gain the exposure they need. Sean Tyler Foley, welcome to the Business Chop.
Oh, it's a joy and a pleasure to be here, Audrey. And yeah, it's a little smoky up here, but we're persevering. We're making it through.
Good. I hope it hasn't affected your voice. So you sound great. Your eyes aren't running. So
I appreciate it. It's because I've barricaded myself into my studio, which is nicely soundproof. And so there's not a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot of air movement that goes through here. So, but as soon as I get out into the main area of the house, you're like, is that mesquite barbecue? What's going on here?
Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, definitely want to make sure everybody is safe. Where we're going to start, because you have such an eclectic background here. If anyone talk about your acting and how you went from there to come into to basically coaching, writing books and things. Just give us a little more background. Expand upon that, Tyler.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a circuitous journey, to say the least. I started out acting on stage at 6 years old, and that was a real joy and really foundational for me, too, because a lot of who I am, what I believe in, my strengths, all of those things were really formed and founded in theater at a young age. And so, from that, I went to a fine arts high school, got into film and television in my later teens, moved to a large film center here in Canada in Vancouver, just north of Seattle, and spent most of my early to mid teens performing in film and television and really making a go of it as an actor. Okay. And then I got bored and kind of complacent with the industry. I mean, I'd been doing it for 20 years, so I did what most people do. All right. After a 20-year career, I decided it was time for me to retire. And
that's about right, though.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly right. And one of the nice things is when you're a child performer, a lot of your money goes into a trust. So 75% of the funds that you earn have to go into trust. And my mom was very, very smart. She is one of the most fiscally responsible human beings I've ever met, because she's an accountant and a payroll administrator, and she knows the world. She understands finance very well. Okay. And so she actually locked up my trust until I was 25. So She had the option, right? 18, 21, or 25. And she checked the 25 box, and probably one of the greatest gifts that I ever got. Because if I'd have gotten that money even at 23, I would have spent it all on Lego and goalie equipment. Just guaranteed.
Exactly. It's some fast cars.
And the funny thing is, I never would have spent money on fast cars because I got to drive fast cars in the movies.
Okay. So
I could never afford. Yeah, I could never afford the kind of vehicles that I was able to operate when I was doing stunt work in films. So that was where I got it out. And we got to do like really fun stuff too, because you got to race those cars on closed circuit tracks and controlled streets and in a really, really controlled environment, and do some amazing things with vehicles. So I make no mistake.
Okay.
I like driving fast,
Mhm.
but I like driving fast in a controlled and safe environment. And if it's not,
Absolutely.
I don't, I enjoy my speed when I can do it safely. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
but yeah, no, goalie gear,
Okay.
because to be able to face a puck effectively, you want to have the top of the line equipment, and it's not cheap. If I
Uh-oh.
was to outfit myself right now,
Hmm.
Canadian dollars, it would be about $7,500 for me to get all the gear that I want the way that I want it. So in US, that's about $30, I think.
No, it's not that bad.
No, it'd be about 5,500 US for me to get all the gear
Yeah.
that I would normally wear. So it's not a cheap sport. And Lego, I just love Lego. So that's what I would have done. But my mom was smart.
Yes, she
And
was.
so she locked that money into a trust. And so when I was 25, I started looking around to figure out where I'd like to go back to school.
Mm.
Never did settle on anything until I was about 28, and then got an engineering discipline,
Oh,
which,
cool. And
yeah,
what was it?
uh, in civil engineering,
Okay.
geomatics
Okay.
specifically.
All right.
So I specialized in photogrammetry, which is just a real fancy way of saying I took pictures of the Earth. So
Oh, yeah.
anybody who's ever
Absolutely.
clicked, yeah, if you've ever clicked satellite view on Google, that's what I did. I
Yeah.
made that. I
Okay.
made those pictures,
That is so
and
cool. Let me
yeah, it was.
real quick. Real quick. I always have to get this in there when someone says they're engineer. I always like to say I'm a pseudo engineer because I do marketing communications for engineering college at Cleveland State University.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll make you
Love my
honorary.
engineers.
Well, and the funny thing is I stopped wearing my pinky ring over a decade ago.
Oh my God, we just had the ceremony a couple of weeks ago for the Order of the Engineer. That
Isn't
is
that a
awesome. Yeah,
phenomenal thing to do?
it is. It is. And to have
Yeah,
her, watch. I usually but for the past few years, I'm the one that reads the names.
yeah,
And just to have the students come up, they hand me their card. And then when they're in the audience and everyone is, reading the pledge or, taking that oath. Yeah, that I
yeah.
love that. Yes.
Well, and when I got to take my oath, it was particularly poignant for me because I had lived in Vancouver for a while, and there was a time where all of those rings were manufactured from the steel from the Second Narrow Bridge collapse, which was in
Um,
Vancouver. So that was one of those things where I was, uh, it meant a lot to me to be in that ceremony.
yes.
And it was weird too, because I have this very outgoing personality, which most engineers do not possess. So I've always been a
My
bit of a
lips are
black sheep that way.
sealed.
Yeah, I know. You can't say anything because you do all the marketing for them. But it was one of those things where I really enjoyed the discipline of my uncle was a cartographer. My other uncle was a photogrammetrist and cartographer. My grandfather was a surveyor. So geomatics was kind of in my blood.
Okay.
And so then when I, graduated from school, I started my own photogrammetry firm and my own mapping firm with
Excellent.
the help of an amazing business partner. And unfortunately, that venture lasted about 3 years and collapsed very quickly after she passed away. And so I didn't, my world stopped overnight,
That's
and I
right.
really,
That's right.
really wasn't sure what to do next. And the funny thing is when you're in that business, your primary clients are either the government or
Mhm.
large oil and gas companies, because they're the ones who are the mass consumers of geographic information.
Yes.
And so when you're going to work for either one of those entities, they require that you have a health and safety program in place.
Mhm.
And so I had drawn the short straw between me and my business partner, and I had to go and get all the safety training so that we could put together the safety program and have this thing in place. And so when the business collapsed, a good friend of mine reached out to me and he said, um, you have the most of the training necessary to get this designation, NCSO, National Construction Safety Officer. He said,
Oh,
especially with an engineering background, you would be phenomenal as a safety officer. He
mm.
says, you've got this weird blend of, a performance, so your training and your safety presentations won't suck, and you have this engineering background, so you actually understand the safety stuff in a pretty good capacities. Like, would you be interested in coming and working for me as a safety manager? And I said, sure, why not? I needed something to do. And
Right.
I literally, all my life savings, everything had gone into making this business happen.
Yeah.
And so that kind of became the pivot. And then next thing I knew, I was doing the safety training. and I was doing this safety management and consulting. And the contract that I had with my friend was only for a year because he only needed for a very brief period of time for a large project that he was doing. And then I realized, I could probably do this on my own. So I started doing my own business and doing my own training and my own consulting. And the more that I was doing it, the more I realized that really that key ingredient for most leadership, like forget safety, take safety out of it, just leadership in general, was communication and public speaking. And I do it really well.
Yes, sir.
And so I had a lot of people that came to me and asked, how do you do what you do? And meaning, how do you stand up on stage and just speak and not care? And I was like, well, it's easy. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 6. And so I had to reverse engineer it. And that is how the book came about. So the Power to Speak Naked was a direct result of me trying to get out from my head over 30 years of experience of public speaking and answer that question. How do you do what you do in the manner in which you do it? And it was probably the greatest thing that I've ever done for myself, because the book has taken me places I never thought I would be. And I've gotten to meet people I never thought I would meet. I've got to be on stages. A year ago today, I was speaking in Dallas on a stage that had Tony Robbins as the headliner.
Oh, man.
And that memory popped up today and just made me smile. Who would have thought if you'd have asked me even 5 years ago, I would never have thought that I would have been on a stage with Tony Robbins. Yeah. Getting to do the backstage thing and do the pictures and meet him. Yeah. And other amazing people too, like Molly Bloom was there. Phil Town, the investment guru, was there. JT Fox, a fairly famous Canadian businessman, was one of the presenters there as well. And so just there's some amazing people, and I got to be a part of it. And that's something that, I don't know that I would have been able to do without the book.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of my earlier guests, he was talking about speaking and how, a book really brings that credibility to us. Yeah. So, sidebar, I've got a couple of those too sitting around here somewhere I need to finish. But back to you, because this is all about you and what you can bring to to the Chop Squad. But yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
Well, that's the funny thing about it.
In my head, I went through Sean, Jason, Tyler, Taylor.
Yeah, I know. And hey, I've been called significantly worse. So, and I was just filming a movie this week. Have a small role on a very, very fun project. And thank you. I'm not allowed to say because of my NDA.
Okay. And I'm usually the one who could get people to open up and talk too. That's my gift.
Yeah, and I would love to be able to say A, who's in the movie with me because they're phenomenal, and B, what the title of the movie is because it's going to be a really fun work. And in about 6 months when I'm tagged on IMDb and people can see what I was in.
Okay, I'm gonna be out there looking.
They'll remember our conversation, Audrey, and they'll be like, "Oh, he was in that movie." Okay. But yeah, it was. I remember just being on set and remarking at just how amazing it was to be where I was and doing those things that I was doing. But that film is based on a book. It's a real life book. And so, yeah, the power of sharing the words is important.
There's a lot that you have to offer us in working with folks to come out of our shelves and really, be up front. So how do people get over that, or what's the step? And
so the first thing to recognize is most people are telling a story that isn't true. They're misdiagnosing what their fear is. They're saying that they're afraid of public speaking. And that is just a blatant falsehood. Okay. The actual number of people who are legitimately afraid of public speaking, and there is that is a phobia. That is a for real thing. But the actual number of people is infinitesimally smaller than what the number of people who claim to be afraid of public speaking actually are. And we can prove this right now. Okay. I would ask any one of the Chop Squad who is listening right now, when was the last time you were in a restaurant and ordered food? And did you know your wait staff? Because if you didn't know your wait staff, you not only spoke in public, but you spoke to a complete stranger and you asked for what you wanted and you got it. So this notion that we're afraid to speak in public or we're afraid to speak to strangers or we're afraid to ask for what we want is null and void if you have ever been to a restaurant, ordered food, and didn't know your waitstaff.
Wow. You just broke that down.
Well, it's because it's true, because there's so many people who are like, I'm afraid to speak in public. And I'm like, if the 70% of Americans who claim to be afraid of public speaking legitimately were, commerce as we know it would collapse. You could never go to a bank. You could never go to a restaurant. You could never go to the grocery store. And there would be no social interaction.
The restroom, please.
Exactly. Like you would never, it would be chaos. It is just not true. The reality is, and I know because I can hear the Chop Squad because you've got really good audio, Audrey. I can hear them all screaming. They're like, no, but when I'm ordering in the restaurant isn't looking at me. And if that is their justification for why they're afraid of speaking in public, then they're not actually afraid of speaking in public. What they're afraid of is public judgment.
Oh, yes.
That is what we need to address. Somebody's fear of public judgment, not this notion that they're afraid to speak in public, but this fear of public judgment. And the reason we need to reframe that is because it's like claiming that you're having a heart attack when you actually have indigestion. Mm-hmm. And so you're running around trying to find a defibrillator when what you need is Pepto-Bismol. Right? Like, here's 2 Imodium, go away, and you will be fine. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I do. I show people, first of all, that they don't need to, most of that fear of public judgment comes from that, first of all, that fear of judgment, period.
Yes.
And that fear of judgment is coming from usually a place of inferiority or imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong or that you're not the expert or that you shouldn't be doing it. Or that the audience is in some way harmful to you or malicious or has a negative perception of you. And none of those things are true. Now, again, let's dispel a myth really quickly here, Audrey. For anybody who tuned in today, any of the Chop Squad who tuned into Business Chop, if they tuned in and they were thinking this, then I'm wrong. Okay. If they tuned in and they were like, well, I hope Audrey sucks today. And I hope this Sean Tyler Foley dude is horrible. I hope whatever the Power to Speak Naked is just trash. I hope it's junk. I hope they bring no value to the conversation. I hope this guy stumbles over his words. I bet he's going to forget everything he's going to say. And I hope this is an absolute train wreck. Now, if they were legitimately thinking that, then I am wrong. But I am willing to bet my career, my livelihood, and my finances on the fact that nobody comes to anything thinking that. In fact, we can prove this. We can take this one step further. If there's anybody in the audience who has ever gone to a movie that had horrible reviews, like just trash, the Rotten Tomatoes, just a 0 score on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down. All of their friends went and saw it and were like, that is awful. That is the worst bit of cinematography ever put to celluloid. Do not go see that film. But they went anyway. What were they thinking? Well, it can't be that bad.
Right. Curiosity.
Curiosity. So they're going to go and they're going to be like, no, there's got to be something good in here. And then they walk away and they're like, well, at least I had a good popcorn,
Right.
And that is human nature. If we are very selfish people. So if we are going to invest our time into something, we want it to be good. We want it to succeed. Your audience is no different. If you've been given a platform, you are the expert. We don't ask second best to present. We just don't. Yes. We ask the best person available to give us that information. Even if you have been voluntold by your boss to give Q3 sales quarters statistics updates or whatever, right? They are asking you because nobody else can do it better than you. Okay. And in that same scenario, the people who are coming to that, maybe they're coming into the boardroom or maybe they're coming into an auditorium and it's a mandatory attendance for this meeting. At worst, your audience is passively indifferent to your message. Nobody wants you to fail. They're not actively sitting there thinking, do bad. Right. They don't want that. They want you to succeed. And so understanding and getting into the mindset that your audience is on your side, you are the authority. Therefore, there is no need to fear the judgment of this audience. They want you to succeed. Getting into that mindset and then stepping away. The other thing is too, it's very ego driven when we experience stage fright. Stage fright comes from the ego, and it's a very selfish feeling. Okay. The best way to get over stage fright is to remove yourself from the equation. It is not about you. You are a vessel for information. Your only job as a presenter is to leave your audience better than they found them in whatever format you are presenting. This is true for sales statistics. If you're giving that board meeting presentation, if you are a thought leader who is presenting on a podcast, on a stage, in a book, even, your minister or your pastor or your rabbi who is presenting information in a religious context, all of these people have one job. Okay. Leave their audience better than they found them. Give them something to take away that lifts them higher than they were when they first came in. And even if it's just one thing, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering or life-changing. It can just be a seed of a thought to plant that can grow later. That is your only job as a presenter.
That's powerful right there. If we can just get out of this head and just go do what what we know to do.
Yeah. Well, I worked with the late, great Bernie Dorman, and I remember him saying it. I can't remember if he said it quoting Les Brown or if Les Brown said it quoting Bernie, because the two of them worked very close together for a long time, and I knew them both contextually from the same kind of way. Yeah. But I remember both of them at one point in times that I've been with them saying, "It's less about me and more about thee." And I have taken that to heart with all of my presentations. If I'm not leaving an audience better than I found them, then I shouldn't open my mouth to begin with.
That would be the start of getting over that stage fright.
Yeah. Well, and really it's the start and the end. There's not much more to it than that. Is getting out of your head, getting out of the negative self-talk. Yeah. Now it takes discipline. Mm-hmm. It takes repetition. One of the things that I like to preach is that confidence comes through competence. And competence, again, as a safety and an engineering background, has a legal definition. Adequately qualified, suitably trained with sufficient experience to perform the task with minimal or no supervision. Okay. And if you can open your mouth and make sounds, you are qualified to speak. Oh, wow. It's the other two parts that require the additional. It's the training and the sufficient experience to perform that task with minimal or no supervision. So training you can get anywhere. You could come and take one of my training courses. You could go and take like Carnegie or Toastmasters, or just search, speaker trainer. From Brian Tracy on down, there's at least 10,000 in the US alone. I guarantee, right? It is not hard. Throw a stone, you'll find somebody who claims that they can help you be a better public speaker.
Right.
So the training is not hard. What you then have to do is that sufficient experience to do it enough times that you feel competent in your delivery. And through that competency, you will then become confident in your messaging and your ability to do this. And that the secret there is recognizing all the places where you are speaking in public. Yeah. When you order food at a restaurant, you are giving an opinion, you are giving a thought, and you are speaking in public. When you are having interactions in the boardroom, when you are talking to colleagues, one on few, 2 or 3 or 4 is still an audience. Those are public speaking opportunities. And the more you recognize that you are public speaking, the more comfortable you become with it, the more confident and competent you become in delivering your message. So honestly, it's tackling that mental game and recognizing that you are the authority, the audience is on your side, and you're public speaking always.
That's awesome. You said the start and the end all right there.
Yep. This is my pulpit. This is what I will preach. This is my testimony every time.
I ain't gonna let nobody take it away from me.
That's right.
All right. So now that we got that and we realize that whatever we're doing, we're public speaking. And so how do we give better, more engaging presentations? And
the easiest answer to that in a small period of time is to recognize and follow that adage: less about me, more about thee. You want to be an engaging speaker, engage your audience. Don't talk at them, talk with them. Include them in the conversation. Have a dialogue, not a monologue. One of the biggest mistake I've ever seen of what differentiates amateur presenters from professional presenters. If an amateur is given 45 minutes to talk, they'll talk for 50 minutes. Don't do that. First of all, rude of you to go over your time. Second of all, you want to make sure that you are engaging your audience. If I'm given 45 minutes to talk, my presentation is about 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Second mistake is, even when the mid-level amateur starting to become professional, they're going to talk for the full 25 and then do Q&A afterwards. Don't do that. That's boring. Then people have to sit and listen. If somebody has a question, you should be able to address it right then. That is the true sign of a professional, of a thought leader, and of an expert, is you can have your presentation interrupted. You can answer that question. You can follow that. You can take the presentation wherever the audience needs it to go.
I like that.
And that is really the key. You, as a presenter, you are a guide. And your job is to take somebody on a journey to that final destination. And the problem with, I find with amateur speakers, particularly the ones who are memorizing a script, is they are locking themselves into one itinerary. We are going to fly from Calgary to Cleveland on United Airlines flight 1576, departing at 2:00 on June 24th. Right?
Right.
But what if that flight gets canceled? What if that flight goes mechanical? What if you can't get to the airport? What if there's fog or smoke or lightning or any of these other things that could derail that one single flight? And the people who are memorizing their scripts are locking themselves into the train tracks. That's where they are. They cannot get off. Where a professional, a really good orator, a really good presenter knows that I need to get to Cleveland because I want to help out, those people who are listening to Business Chop. I want to be there. I want to come and I want to meet up with Audrey. How I get there is now up to me. Do we need to get there fast? Do we only have a half an hour to present? Well, guess what? We are getting on the Concorde and we are flying at supersonic speeds and we are going to get there today.
Yes.
But maybe I need to detour. Maybe I need to have a stopover in Chicago, or maybe we lay over in Colorado, because that we need to do some refueling, or maybe we need to bail out and end up in Des Moines. Like, who knows where we go, as long as we get to Cleveland in the end. Yeah. And that is my goal. And that should be what the speakers are. How do we get people from point A to point B and leave them better than we found them? And that is how you keep your audience engaged, by constantly keeping them in mind. What am I going to do that leaves them better? And if you can do that, first of all, it takes the ego out of you. It takes away that fear. You can't fear an audience if you love your audience. If you love your audience is going to love you back. There is a principle of reciprocity there that is, if anybody ever gets a chance to feel it, that's what a standing ovation is. Okay. Anybody who's ever gotten a standing ovation gave their heart and soul to that audience and touched every member of the audience so that they felt that passion. And their only option at that point is to love back. And I'll tell you, as somebody who has felt a standing ovation on numerous occasions, it is the greatest gift any human can ever receive.
I want one of those.
Yeah. Well, okay, ready?
Yeah. Sean Tyler Foley has stood up and gave me an ovation. Thank you.
You're welcome, Audrey. You're
That's
welcome.
so
You deserve it.
humbling while you're standing there, but then walking away, it's like, dang, did I really do it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a truly deserved and achieved standing ovation.
Mhm.
You know, and like I remember I was presenting during we just had our week of mourning. So there's the day of mourning and the week of mourning is a safety week here in Alberta that they do every year to acknowledge the workplace incidents that have been fatalities.
Wow.
And the idea is one day we shouldn't have to have a day of mourning for workplace fatalities, that they are all avoidable. And, 117 or 130, or even if it drops into the two digits and, we have 95 or 96, there's still too many. One is too many.
Right.
And so as one of my main keynote presentations is about safety. It in fact talks about my journey of safety and how the safest job that I ever had was jumping out of windows. I had presented this talk to actually my hometown. Had asked me to come in and speak to the council and everybody who was employed in the town as part of Safety Week. Yeah. And I got an email afterwards from one of the attendees who said that, when I said that your story matters and that you don't know the impact your story will have until you tell it. She took it to heart and she emailed me, and I got a standing ovation there.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was good. But it's feedback like that where somebody says what you said made a difference to me. It had an impact on me, and that's how I know that what I'm doing is right.
Because we're in the graduation season, and one of the student workers, I wasn't there that day, but he left me a card on my door. Long story short, he goes, thank you for being my work mom and taking care of me. When I'm about to get messed up right now, when he said taking care of me, I'm like, oh my God, that was huge. You don't know what kind of impact, like you said, from this woman that emailed you, that we're having on people. And that just really, he made my day.
And I think it's particularly in this day and age, it's so important, and doubly so if you are a business leader or a leader of any kind, if you are in a position of authority, to speak what's on your heart, not necessarily what's on your mind, but what's on your heart.
Yes.
Right. Like your heart will speak to you what needs to be said. The film that I'm doing right now, I had most of my days were at the beginning of the film production, and then I don't go back onto set for almost a month. And we had to film a very, very difficult scene, a very pivotal and important scene within the movie. But the movie deals in a very beautiful way with racism. Okay. And the scene was a white supremacist rally. Oh, it hurt. Like it hurt, especially when you look like me and then say words like that, knowing what the reality of the world is. And I'm very traveled. I recognize that I am the minority. Okay. Right. Like, no, globally. And that is true. And if you don't ever step outside of North America, you tend to not recognize that. But I am the minority. Okay. And so to have said those words were, especially to be in that scenario. And we had, there were 250 extras that were there, and we're all saying some really mean things. Okay. And at the very end of the film day, just before they turned and did all the coverage of the big crowd first. And then they let them go so that they could be gone. And then they turned around and did the coverage of the main cast on the stage at the very end. And just before they let the extras go, typically the first AD is the one who does all the communication with the extras. Okay. But in this case, the director asked for a moment, and he said, I want to thank you. And he explained why this scene was pivotal, because you need to really hate these people in order for the movie to have impact. And he said, this was a hard thing to film. And I recognize that this was probably difficult for the majority of you to do and get into, and your enthusiasm for doing it and your authenticity and giving it your all was really appreciated. And he said, but we can't leave with this kind of energy. So what I would like you to do right now is I want you to turn to the person next to you. I want you to tell them that you love them and give them a big hug.
Oh my goodness.
And I had said to my agent last week when we first started filming, I was on the first 2 days of film, day 1, day 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I phoned my agent right afterwards. And I said, in the 25 to 30 years that I've been doing film, I have never had an experience like this. This has redeemed my joy and my love for doing this creative work.
Yeah.
I said, this is the best production I've ever been on. And it starts with the crew. Mm-hmm. And then when the director said that, we ended up, they wrapped everybody, and me and him ended up kind of just outside on our own, just organically. And I knew on my heart, I could see that he was struggling, having a hard time. And I turned to him and I said, I just want you to know that what you said in there made all the difference in the world. Okay. That this has been the greatest experience I've had in film. And my IMDb is only 1/10 of all the film that I've done, right? Because I started acting before IMDb was around, and some of the stuff is small independent stuff that will never be, but it's still fairly significant. Like my resume right now has to be in micro font so that I can fit everything on it to it. I said to him, in 25 years, I haven't had such a family feeling on a film. I've never been more invested in a project, and it starts with the leadership. And I want you to know that this is all as a result of you. And what you did in there was probably the greatest showing of leadership I've ever seen in my life. And he started to cry.
Wow.
He started to cry, and he said, thank you. Because I could see his heart was heavy. Because we're saying mean things.
Yeah. And he's making people say mean things.
He's making people, 250 people, yes. 250 people screaming words that you would not want to hear in real life.
Yeah. And
I think that's part of it too, is that we're doing pretend, we're doing make believe, but it was difficult. So I wanted him to know, as somebody who studies leadership, who trains leaders on a daily basis, that was probably one of the greatest things. And his message was from the heart too. He needed to speak from the heart, and he needed to get that off. And that's when I say to the people that I train, the thing you're afraid to say is what your audience needs to hear. That's what I mean. You have something that's on your heart. You speak what's on your heart. Your mind is often, unless your mind and your heart are in tuned, your mind is often playing interference with what your heart knows. And so speak what's on your heart, and you'll go very far, particularly in leadership.
Absolutely. Wow. Tyler, that's awesome. And I'm sitting there, I'm all engaged, all over that. So definitely I'm going to be watching, you and following you for whenever that film comes out.
As soon as I can tell you, I'll send you the email, Audrey. You'll be like, that's what we were talking about on my show.
I know him. I'm going to be bragging and everything. We'll be bosom buddies. I'm like,
that's right.
I'm like,
that's right.
At this point, then, how can we get in touch with you, or what is that call to action for us?
Well, first of all, the call to action before, because I know, right? You're going to put my website, you'll put all my information. It's all going to be in the show notes. So anybody can scroll and find that, Audrey. But here's the thing. When they start that scroll, before they get to the show notes and who I am and my bio and the website and all that stuff, they have to scroll past two little things. One of them is a blank grouping of about 5 stars. And another one is a little section that says comment. And so many people scroll past that. So what I would ask, my call to action, Audrey, is if your Chop crew is listening to Business Chop regularly, if they like the content that you are bringing to them, I would humbly ask for them, if they haven't already, give you a 5-star review. And then say why in the comments. Those stars in that comment box is not there for decoration. It is not there as a spacer so that you can get to the show notes and the information about the guest. It's there for you to use. So if you are getting value out of the Business Chop podcast, helps all of us. It's going to help you, because if you tell Audrey what you are enjoying on the show, she will be able to bring more of that to you.
Amen.
It's going to help Audrey, because then she will know what to bring, and it will help bring the show to more prominence on the rankings, because the more comments, the more stars, the more likely it is to be fed to you, so that more people can learn this, which also will mean that it will become part of the radar of bigger and better guests.
Amen.
Which means that you get to learn more, and Audrey gets to bring more to you. So it benefits everybody. If you can do me a favor right now and hit pause, give a 5-star review, and say why in the comments. And if your audience is willing to do that for us, Audrey, if the Chop crew can do that for me as a favor to me, as a thank you, if they come to SeanTylerFoley.com, I will give them a free PDF download of The Power to Speak Naked, #1 best-selling book, and normally it retails for $17.95. That's my free gift to them, but they have to join my Endless Stages Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group where I go live every Tuesday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern time, and I give a 20-minute presentation on whatever the hot topic from the group that week is. Mm-hmm. So if they join Endless Stages, free gift for them is the PDF download of The Power to Speak Naked, and they get access to my Drop the Mic speaker training program, which is a series of 7 5-minute videos. So in a course of a week and over your coffee break, you can consume this information and become a better, more confident speaker. I give you 7 insider tips on how to be more confident and a better presenter inside of Drop the Mic. So you get the book, you get access to the free training with the Endless Stages program, and you get the access to the recorded training program that you can take on your own time, but only if they're willing to give you a 5-star review. No 5-star review, no free gifts for you. That's how it is.
5. In a statement.
And the comments, you got to say why. What is it that you are enjoying? What is it that you are consuming out of this?
Yeah, that is important. And thank you for for saying that, because it is important. A lot of times we're doing this podcast. Sometimes it's for fun. Other times we're trying to build our business, or we really want to give a stage to somebody. And I enjoy this. I've been doing it for a long time. But we don't always. This is not like a life-shattering, paid job or project for our business. So it is a hard work, and I do appreciate, I do need that feedback.
Yeah. No, speak what's on your heart. Speak what's on your heart, because Audrey's bringing it to you every day, Chop Crew. So you yourself, you have got to bring it back. Give her a 5-star review. Let her know why in the comments. And if you're willing to do that, scroll on down further to the show notes, click on SeanTylerFoley.com, and I'd be happy to give you some of those free gifts.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Tyler. Really appreciate you. And until then, the next time, yes, for sure. All right. But take care. Thank you for listening to The Business Chop. We hope that you were able to glean valuable information from our guest, and that you will download and share this podcast. Your rating and review is much appreciated. To go deeper with our guests, please visit their website and social channels. To learn more about us, please visit businesschop.info or altogether.biz, where we will help you expand your brand.